Again, I am Sam, and we'll go through a number of markets today, covering the core strategy that I always bring to these sessions, which is looking at any and all markets, uh, stocks, futures, certainly Forex, and we can even talk options if you like. But looking at them from the perspective of really answering two questions. Where are prices going to turn, and where are prices going to move to? When it comes to trading, investing, market speculating, whatever you want to call it, those are the two most important questions, right? Where are prices going to turn, and where are they going to go? For that, to answer those two questions objectively, we need to understand the market's supply and demand, right? Because we know that at price levels where supply and demand are out of balance, that's where prices are going to turn. Price levels where you don't have a big imbalance, that's where prices are going to move through. So we need to be able to clearly see both of those on a price chart to answer those two questions. Where are prices going to turn, and where are they going to go? So I'm going to assume that most of you have been through one of my sessions before. If you haven't, just let me know in the chat. But we'll go through markets, identify opportunities, and if it's a market that I'm in a trade, I'll certainly let you know. And I'll certainly explain strategy as we go along. Last little comment, and then we'll get going. I have a whole list of markets here on the right that I can go through and typically do. But if you have a market that you want to look at, or an opportunity that's important to you, just put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to try and take a look at it. First thing I thought I would go over is a trading opportunity. We'll come back to that in a little bit. I just got out of a trade a few minutes ago, so I was going to go over that. Thought there was a good little lesson there. The chart that we almost always start with here is the dollar, and so let's look at that. Obviously, this is the most important market for us, and it's not just because it's a currency, right? Whether you trade whatever markets you're trading, equity index markets, currencies, commodity markets, energy, any of the energy and metal markets, really, this dollar chart is extremely important. And as we can see here, for those of you that have been in these FX Street sessions for, a while now, let me just get some more days in here. There we go. One more, sorry about that. There we go. So, as you know, when the dollar got to 103.40, we were suggesting that it was going to come all the way down to about 90. It just hit that over the past 2-3 days, and we're pretty much back there now. The next move in the dollar is likely to be a rally up to some supply above. And again, you can see those levels here on the chart. These are just big daily, larger time frame levels. And anyway, there's that. So knowing that the dollar is into some demand, we'd want to look at some of the major currencies against the dollar and see if they are coming into supply. For example, if we go to the euro, right? Scrunch up this daily chart a little bit. And maybe let me see here. We did have a level. I thought we had a level here. Let me just scroll back here on this 4-hour chart. My chart's a little slow here. I know we have a level back there. This is we've had on the chart for a while. Let me just get some more days. I did have to do something to my computer not long ago, so um, I'm missing some of the defaults, or none of the defaults actually are intact. So I'll have to get that back. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing up this euro is we do have a level above in a nice profit zone below, down to 121. So that's important. Let me just scroll back and you'll see we did go pretty deep into the level. But here, you'll see it back here. Oops. That was way too far. There it is. Where was it? It was right here. Huh. Oh, I'm sorry. The chart just picked up that data. That's why it jumped like that. Anyway, here's the area we just ran into. I'll blow it up for you. So that's the level we thought, again, that price would stop rallying and turn lower. It has. Reason why we thought that is because supply exceeds demand there, right? So let me go back there. I don't know why the chart just jumped. But let me just go back to that area. There it is. Okay. So another move. Now, the only issue is we've gone somewhat deep into that level. So we would look at this area sitting just above. Okay. And if the euro goes back up into this level, that'll put the dollar back down into its demand level. So we'd probably be okay taking that again. And again, there's a nice profit zone in the euro down to 121. Go to the spot markets. We can certainly look at your Canada, Japan there. No problem. There we go. Again, I'm just going to have to update this data every time I go to a new chart because I reinstalled the TradeStation here, the charting package, so that's what happens. All right. And you look, not every market or chart you look at is going to be screaming an opportunity. But anyway. So we see the weekly, the daily, not getting much information there. Let's again bring this 4-hour up. And here we could see, this low right here is right into a really nice demand zone. However, it's gone pretty deep into it, so we would take the next demand zone below. So this market is not close to an area where we'd want to take action. If you're, short in this market, there's certainly room down to, the 87.75, and then there are supply zones above, actually sitting just above 90. But let's move on since there's not a whole lot to do there at the moment. And let's move on to this market right here. We're looking at the euro, which we've looked at already, but now we're looking at through the spot market. Start with the weekly. I'm sorry. We're looking at I don't know why I put Euro Aussie. There it is. So again, this is basically the same chart as I just showed you in the futures, only now we're looking at it through the spot market. So let's take a look. Let me just quickly pull up the daily. Let's scrunch it so we can see back. And we just want to make sure, not a whole lot here, but we want to go to, if you remember on this futures market, we saw that level pretty clearly on the 4-hour chart. Okay, that'll be enough. So here's a little tip when the chart looks like this, the way to find your fresh supply zone above current price, the easy way to do it, just put a horizontal line there across the high, and the next time that line pops up, we know that we want to look for something above that. So there's that line. Now this is interesting. So if I pull that line up just a bit, right, to the origin of the drop, and we take it like that, okay, that level is actually fresh. I don't think we've been there. Let's pull this all the way over. All right, so that's good. So if we trade the euro, this one I really like. So we'd be looking for a new high in the euro, and that high would be looks like it's a pretty good short. Okay. But you don't want to see a new high into that level. And ideally at that time, the dollar will be down into demand. Very similar to a trade that I took this morning and just got out of before our session started here. Let me show you. It was just a short-term income little day trade in the S&P. What I was looking to do this morning is buy a new low, right? I wanted price to go below the overnight low and into this area, and then buy it. And I wanted to take it for about 3.5, 4 points. I forget what it was, but so that's what it did. Came down here, didn't fill, came down again, and then shot up to the supply, and now it's back down again. And actually, a new low into here. Actually, maybe right down in here. Well, it is the third or fourth time back into this level. So, but that whole concept of a new low into an area, just flip this chart over, and that's what we have in the euro. And again, when the market's down like this, don't think it can't be back up here pretty quickly, right? You're down into fresh demand. So these new lows into levels are very, very buyable, or new highs into supply zones are very shortable. You just want to make sure that price hasn't gone too deep into the level. Because keep in mind that at each price point in these levels, there's new orders, right? Or there's fresh orders that have not been filled yet. A supply or demand zone is not one set of orders. There's multiple price points inside these zones. Okay. When you look to the left at the supply or demand zone itself, the price point that saw the least amount of trading in the zone is probably exactly where you want to buy it, right? And the reason why you saw the least amount of trading at that price point in the zone is because that's where supply and demand is most out of balance. Does that make sense? Okay. So we'll leave that one alone. And again, if you have another chart you want to go over, just let me know. All right, let's keep going. See how that works? Again, very, very low risk. Okay, so let's take a look at, so again, given that the dollar is in that demand zone, yeah, I was actually just going to go to the yen, and then we'll look at the pound, and we'll look at a bunch of them. The yen, I believe, actually had some good areas on a smaller time frame. Oh, no, here. Well, this is one of them. Let me get rid of these lines down here. Okay, so we're looking at a 4-hour chart of the dollar, of the yen. And again, these time frames, you know, if you're kind of new at this, make sure you understand too, none of these time frames are, you know, have any magic power. There's no time frame that's, you know, just any better than the other. And I say that because I get a lot of questions that say, "Oh, Sam, what's your favorite time frame?" or "What's your favorite market?" Um, that question tells me that the person asking it has a little bit of a lack of understanding or opportunity for improvement in their understanding of the markets. Meaning, this is all about supply and demand, right? Behind these markets and orders are just people making buy and sell decisions. The footprints of those buy and sell decisions are the candles on the screen. Okay, and this all leads to the whole supply demand concept. So the reason why we look at multiple time frames is the same reason why doctors look at multiple x-rays. Okay, when a doctor, when they take an x-ray of someone hurts their knee, how many pictures do they take of that knee in an x-ray? Multiple pictures. Or, an MRI or something. It's multiple pictures with multiple angles. Yet it's still the same knee and one knee. See what I'm saying? So we look at multiple time frames for that very same reason. Okay, to get a better visual of that whole supply and demand relationship, to ultimately determine how out of balance it is, what the real profit zone is, and so on and so forth. So, so here's a little demand zone on the 4-hour, and on this time frame, we see a clear profit zone above that takes us up to right about up here, about 112.60, right? About 112.60. Let me just put that in. Okay. And again, if you trade the futures, you would it's the same levels. Okay. So we'd be looking to buy it here. And for right now, let's keep our target just before this opposing supply zone right here at 112.50. However, I would never take this trade without looking at another time frame. Just like they would never just rely on one X-ray picture to make a decision, right? It would never happen. So I want to go down to a smaller time frame and look inside here and get a little more help with assessing that profit zone. Okay. So it just came down a time frame, and demand zone looks okay. Profit zone still looks okay. What I wanted to see is, are there any supply zones in here that I'm not seeing or picking up? And there's not. Okay. For if you're a short-term trader, right? If you just want to do short-term day trades in these markets, you have an opportunity for a short in the yen. Okay. You have two supply zones on top of each other, and room for prices to, this is that big daily demand zone, but looks like there's room till about 110.70. The supply zone right here, the origin of that drop is about 111.08, 111.07, and if you get your stop up here around 111.18, that would be ideal. So I'm going to do a quick check over here with the pound futures. And let's first look at the larger time frames. Okay. Not a whole lot to look at here on the daily. That big red candle over there kind of messes things up, but we can look at smaller time frames. That's the beauty of it. I was looking at this demand zone before, but obviously I missed it, and it's already hit, so no reason to go over that. All right, let's get back to the spot markets. Again, if there's any market that you want to look at, just let me know. Otherwise, I will continue to run through the list here. Let's go through the Aussie dollar. That was an old level. All right, let's start with the daily. And again, with all these markets we're looking at, especially today, what's in the well, I almost said in the back of my mind, but in the front of my mind is where that dollar is. It's not often that that dollar is into a larger time frame zone. Okay, so on the daily here, we don't have a whole lot to look at. We can scrunch up, but that's not going to help us until we get above these highs. So let's just go down a couple time frames. I'm going to put a horizontal line like before across the high. Oops. Okay, so now we hit price. That's not supply, so we pull this line up to the high. We do have supply here, but it's not fresh anymore. So I want to keep scrolling. Let's pull this up to the high. Again, we want to get to fresh supply. All right. Well, we're so far above current price. Probably not a whole lot to do there. So let's move off of the Aussie dollar. Well, before that, let's just go to the smaller time frames. Very likely there's something to do there, and there is. So it's too small of a time frame though for the spot market. Let's pull this up a little bit. Okay, let me blow this up. And there's that. So there's a little demand zone sitting just below these lows. The fact that these candles here did not come all the way back to this level tells us that there's a pretty big imbalance down here. All right. And then looking above current price, what's attractive is there's really a profit zone that takes you almost all the way back up to the high. Yeah, there's room for the Aussie to go up. Just remember, for markets like the Aussie dollar, you're almost going to get better direction off of just looking at the dollar index chart. Okay, that's likely to turn higher after going into the demand zone. So you could take your cue from that in trading the Aussie dollar. And so here's a nice little day trading opportunity in the Aussie dollar spot. Okay. Let's just quickly take a peek at the, not in love with this market. I looked at it earlier. I just want to see if a new supply zone developed. Well, I guess it sort of did. This is the euro yen. I saw prices basing here at the 135.90. It's a little 5-minute chart. We've since fallen from there, so yes, a supply zone has developed. Looks pretty good. Very, very low risk to look for a short here for a move back down to below 135.70. In fact, there's plenty of room. What I liked about this one is the profit zone really takes you all the way down to here. Very important. Ultimately, all that markets do, and you could just pick any market you want, look back as far as you want. All markets prices do ultimately is move from fresh demand to fresh supply and and back again until the orders are gone, right? There's the fresh demand zone below, and I was looking earlier, which is why I pulled this chart up to see if this turned into a supply zone, and kind of did. Okay, let me fix the circle. Whoops. Here we go. Um, and sorry about that. Again, I don't normally have to do that, but like I said, I had to reload the trading platform. Sure, let's look at the Canadian. And ideally, we want to, just because there's not a whole lot right here in the larger time frames, you do have demand sitting right below the prior week's low. So if you make a new low on the week this week, you're probably right into demand there. So you probably see a nice little bounce. Um, this wild trading here off of, I believe that was off of a number. This is where you don't really want to do anything in here. Very, very, low odds and high risk. The reason is, again, what causes prices to stop moving in turn is a supply and demand imbalance. The fact that during this period right here that I'm pointing to, price goes all the way up to here and all the way down to here, tells us for a fact our significant supply demand imbalances are beyond those 2 points. And if that statement was not true, you wouldn't have these 2 points. Does that make sense? The fact that price was able to go down to here and up to here tells us there can't be a supply demand imbalance within that. Otherwise, price never would have made those that high and low. So the fact that price is right in the middle, which is where it's going to spend most of its time, right around equilibrium. That's what markets do. There's not a whole lot to do here in the smaller time frame or the larger time frame. Okay. I wouldn't say it's wise to get out of a trade before big news. People don't. The news isn't what hurts people. Being in the market in the wrong side, in the wrong direction, that's what hurts people. So the better that you understand your supply and demand levels and profit zones, the more I think you'll find that you want to be around for the news. If that makes sense. Okay. All right, there's my email address. I kind of messed it up a little bit, but sseiden@tradingacademy.com. If you guys have any questions, comments, certainly send them my way. And happy to help if I can. And we'll see you next time.